JIG's example problems. You have to use a PSG design data book. Okay, we'll start with a simple component. Design and draw a channel jig for the mild steel component. So this is the component with its various dimensions. Height is given, length is given. Then you are going to hold a drill the hole with a diameter of 18 mm. So on this inside the component, we are going to drill a hole with an 18 mm dia. So start with a rough sketch of the channel jig. Always start with a rough sketch of the channel jig and then a rough estimate of the bill of materials. So this is the work component. You don't need to draw this to scale because you're going to erase it off, because you need to draw a perfect diagram at the end of designing a drill jig. So this rough sketch is going to tell you what are the components you are going to use. See what are the other elements of a drill jig. So you need two locators. You might require two locators. You may require a screw clamp with pressure pads. So two on this side and two on this side. So here will be the two locators. You may require a screw clamp with a pressure pad. So as you can see, this is another view. Side view tells you very clearly. So these two mini circles might represent either the screw clamp with a pressure pad or two locators. So this is the jig body, this is the drill bush. So after drawing a rough sketch of the drill jig which you are going to design, we will start with the first component, drill bush. So how we are going to select a drill bush? For this, go to PSC design data book, page number 5.100. We are going to select a fixed type of bush. So that is DDB design data book, page number 5.100. Photocopy is on the next slide. So for dia of D1, for drilling a hole of diameter D1, say 18 mm, select L1, L2, D2 and D3 values. So what is L1, L2, D2 and D3? It is given on the same page itself. On the design data 5.100, you may be able to see a locators, the drill bush diagram. So this is L1, this is L2, this is the D1, this is D2 and this is D3. So what is this D1, F7, D1, H6? These two, F7 and H6, represent the tolerances for D1 inside dia and as well as the tolerance for D2, this value D2. Okay. For this we have to go to design data book page number 3.9. So D1 of 18 mm. For D1 of 18 mm, go to design data book page number 3.9. So this is 3.9. We are going to find out D1 F7. So we know we are going to drill a hole of 18 mm diameter. So for 18 mm diameter, so what is the value of the tolerance? So go here. This is 3, 6, 6, 10, 10 to 18. So here it is. So for 18, what is the value of D1 F7? So it is plus 41 and plus 20. So this represents the tolerance. We have to multiply this by 0.001 because 1 micron is equal to 0.001 mm. So thus you will be able to get the value of D1 F7. So what about D2 H6? Another tolerance for the diameter D2 of the drill bush. So for that you have to go to design data book page number 3.7. So this is the photocopy of page number 3.7. So you can see for D2 H6. So for D2 H6, just come here. So what is the value of D2? D2 is 30, which we already found out from the design data book. So for D2 30, what is the tolerance limit? So the tolerance would be for D2 H6 will be, it will be a negative value, minus 00, minus 13. Again multiply this by 0.001. I'm sorry. So here, so for 30, go for this 30, not this 30 because it starts between 18 and 30. You can go for 30 and above. So you can go for this value. So D1 H6 will be minus 00, minus 16. So multiply this by 0.001. You will be getting this value. Thus we found out the various dimensions of the drill bush. We found out what is L1, what is L2, what is D1, what is D2, and also we know what is D3. Fine. Now we'll go to the second part. We'll go for the selection of the locator. Locator, I hope you remember, will be on the left side of the channel jig. So locators, you may require two locators. So one locator can be seen here, the other locator will be on the other side. So selection of the locator. For selecting a locator, you need to go to page number 5.92 design data book, and before that you have to make some you have to mention this. See, the thickness of the jig plate must be equal to the distance L2 of the bush. Hope you are able to follow this. The thickness of the jig plate, I repeat, the thickness of the jig plate, so this is the jig plate, thickness of the jig plate must be equal to the L2 value of the drill bush. So we have to go back to the drill bush diagram. So this value L2 is equal to, because the drill bush is going to rest on the top portion of the jig plate in this area, right? So this area here and here, this represents the jig plates, the width of the jig plate. So the width of the jig plate must be equal to L2 of the bush, because this is going to sit exactly on top of the top portion of the jig body, or on the top plate of the jig body. Hope you're able to understand this. So width of the that is jig plate thickness must be equal to the distance L2 of the bush. Okay. So this represents the jig plate thickness, which is equal to 15 mm L2 of the bush. Then for better agility of channel jig, two locators and two screw clamps are required, which we already discussed. And then what about the width of the workpiece? Width of the workpiece is equal to 45 mm. We know the width of the workpiece is 45 mm. It is given in the problem itself. The width is 45 mm. So what about the width of the jig body? The width of the jig body must be the same, 45 mm. So the width of the jig is selected as 45 mm, exactly the same, similar to the size of the width of the workpiece. Then only it will sit tightly and rigidly. So the width, so this width of the jig plate or jig body must be equal to the width of the workpiece. So width of the workpiece, this is the length of the workpiece, width is on the other side. This is the width of the workpiece must be equal to the width of the jig body. Fine. So for perfect alignment of two locators at the width of 45 mm, select the head locator head diameter as, see one more thing, see if the width of the workpiece is 45 mm, what about the locators, this value of D. So the locator head, this is the locator head, this is the second portion of the locator. So this D value must be less than, that is so since we are selecting two locators, so the D value, this capital D value of both the locators must be less than 45 mm. Correct? So this value must be less than 40 mm, so 45 mm. So go to the locators, go to the design data book, go to the locators page. I think this is in 5.92. So for this diameter or this value, that is the head of the locator must have a diameter of 16 mm. So 16 plus 16 will be equal to 32 mm. Hope you are able to follow. You need two locators. Let us go back to the main body. So you might require two locators. So this portion is the head. This portion you may call it as a tail of the locator. So this portion, head of the locator, set capital D value of both the locators, two locators must be less than 45 mm. See, if you can even select this value 20, but the problem is, select this as 20, this value will go out of the jig plate. The reason is, see, this portion will be this portion of the locator will be touching the workpiece, and this portion will be inside the jig plate. So this portion will be inside the jig plate. This will be touching the workpiece. So the portion, the capital D will be touching the, or the head of the locator will be touching, head of the locator will be touching the workpiece. Okay, fine. So we better go for 16 mm. So 16. So D is 15. This D1 is as 12, 11.5, H1 and H2, 14 and 22. So this H2, this is H1. This H1 will be inside the jig plate. So this H1 is 14 because we know the jig plate thickness is 15 mm. What is the thickness of jig plate? The thickness of the jig plate is equal to L2 of the bush, which is nothing but 15 mm. So this value, this H1, which is going to be inside this jig plate, must be less than 15 mm. So that's why we have selected 14 mm. So the corresponding capital D value is 16. So we have selected the locator. So these are the values which we found from the design data book. Okay, fine. So you have to draw this diagram, and then we'll go to the design of the jig body or jig plate. So width of the jig plate, we know it is 45 mm because the width of the jig plate must be equal to the width of the workpiece. What about the length of the jig plate? So the length of the jig plate, this length, the entire length of jig plate must be TP, that is thickness of one plate, thickness of the second plate, right? Then you have the length of the workpiece, and also this value, that is the head of the locator, and plus clearance. That is what is given here. So length of the workpiece is equal to 2 times the thickness of the jig plate, length of the workpiece, height H2. This H2 we already found out from the design data book, from the locators page, and then plus allowance we have to give. This allowance for the pressure pad. So this is the H2 is the locator pin head length is 22 mm, and then length of the workpiece is 75 mm. We already know. So you have to add all these values. An allowance of 13 mm is given because of the pressure pad. So this is the length of the jig plate. It is found around 140 mm. What of the height of the jig plate? The jig plate is the height of the workpiece, thickness of the jig plate, and also clearance for chip removal. We go back to the line diagram. So the height of the jig body is the height of the workpiece, thickness of the jig plate, and also the clearance area in this side for chip removal. So this can be, you have a particular that is for ductile metal is half of the drill dia. So for ductile metal is D divided by 2, which is 9 mm. If the metal is brittle in nature, it will be exactly equal to 18 mm. So the value remains the same. The drill dia is 18 mm is equal to the clearance value. So clearance chip removal. So thus we found what is the height of the jig plate. So 52 plus 15 plus 9 is equal to 76 mm. Now what about the selection of the clamp? In order to clamp the right hand side of the workpiece, pressure pad with assembly can be used. So go to design data page number 5.104. 2 clamps can select for better rigidity of the jig. The pressure pad will be fixed at the end of the clamp. So this is the diagram of the pressure pad. This is found in the design data book. So we will be now taking out the dimensions. So the outer dia of the pressure pad is selected as 16 mm, and then so this is the outer dia 16 mm, and then based on this we can select the other values. The size of the screw width thread is M8. So this is the pressure pad design data books photocopy of the pressure pad page. So they have selected as 16 mm. This is the D value set as 16, similar to the capital D value of the locator. The capital D value of the locator is also set as 16 mm. So 16 plus 16 will be 32, which of course it will be less than the width of the workpiece, 45 mm. Okay, so 16. and then what is the type of the thread we are selected? We are selecting for screw with thread M8. So this value we have to note it down. So this value represents the dimensions of the pressure pad. For example, what is the H value? So H value is 9.5. So this H will be between the, see, this is the pressure pad. So this is the pressure pad. So we found out the D1 is 16 mm, so we have the H value is 9.5 mm. So D5 is 12, D6, D7, all these values can be taken from the JIG data book. And what about the what about the allowance value? So the allowance value can even give as 12 mm also. 13 mm has been chosen. Allowance value because if you go to the length of the jig plate, it is, this 2 times the thickness of the plate plus length of the piece plus H2 is this value, H2, and also allowance can be even 13 mm or 14 mm, depends, or even you can even select as 12 mm. So this allowance can be chosen from the pressure pad page. So the pressure pad. So for 16 mm the H value is 9.5, but since we are drilling a hole of 18 mm, so it is somewhere in between. So either you can go for 12 mm or additionally one more mm also you can add for the allowance part. Okay. So we have selected this. Now we'll draw a simple diagram. Simple diagram. It is a neat diagram, of course. And thus we have designed a channel jig for drilling an 18 mm dia hole for this component. Thanks for watching.